Alright, it seems you guys really like recruiting videos, and with it being signing day today, we're going to go ahead and talk about where all the top 25 recruits are going to end up. There's been a lot of movement over the last couple of weeks, but we finally have things settling out with early signing day. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you're into support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about where the top 25 recruits ended up landing. Okay, so the first recruit we're going to start talking about is Jordan Edmonds, and he's considered the number 25 player in the country, the number 2 corner, and the 4th best player in the state of Georgia. He comes out of Sprayberry High School in Marietta, Georgia, and he has been super productive. He ended up having 36 tackles, 1 interception, and 3 pass breakups on defense, and on offense, he had 32 catches for 559 yards and 9 touchdowns. Edmonds would end up deciding to end his recruitment and will sign with Alabama and Kalen DeBoer, and will be a big boost to their secondary. Coming in at number 24, we have to talk about Kari Adam. He's a 5-star corner from Loyola Blakefield High School located in Towson, Maryland, and he had offers from pretty much every school in the nation, but he chose to go to Notre Dame over Michigan, South Carolina, Penn State, and Arizona. Adams is definitely a high-impact player, as he's an incredible sprinter, and as a receiver, he ended up having 34 catches for 562 yards and 6 touchdowns. He was also a superstar defensive back, and has all the tools to become the next great corner for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. USC obviously had the number 1 recruiting class this year, and Mark Bowman was a big part of it. Coming out of Mater Dei High School in Santa Ana, he's considered the number 3 tight end in the country, and he's had an incredible couple of years. As a sophomore, he had 32 catches for 435 yards and 8 touchdowns, and averaged nearly 14 yards per catch. He became a 5-star recruit and someone that scouts fell in love with, and he would decide to reclassify into the 2026 class instead of 2027. The 6'5" tight end decided to sign with USC and will hope to make an impact early for the Trojans. The Oregon Ducks have produced a ton of big-time receivers in recent memory, and Jalen Lott out of Frisco, Texas could be the next one in line. DeCorian Moore was a great player as a true freshman, and Lott has that level of potential. He's considered the number 3 wide receiver in the country and committed to Oregon over the likes of Texas, USC, LSU, and Georgia. He pretty much had every offer on the planet. Despite his dad being a former Texas football player, he would commit to Oregon after having 85 catches for 1,100 yards and 16 touchdowns, with 4 more scores on the ground. Lott is a high upside wide receiver who I think will make an early impact for the Ducks next year. Notre Dame always seems to land big-time tight ends, and for the second straight year, a huge tight end recruit comes out of the state of Kansas. Last year it was Lincoln Cure who went to K-State, this year it's Ian Premer. He's the number 2 tight end in the nation and goes to Great Bend High School in Kansas. He decided to commit to Notre Dame over Kansas State, Iowa State, and Kansas, and this guy has so much potential. He ended up having 40 catches for 734 yards and 14 touchdowns, and on defense he had 68 tackles with 5 sacks and 6 picks. The guy is absolutely insane, and honestly reminds me a lot of Mitchell Evans coming out of high school. Coming in at number 20, we have to talk about 5-star linebacker Tyler Atkinson. The Longhorns have been sending a ton of players off to the NFL on the defensive side of the ball, and Atkinson looks like the next great player to sign with them. This guy's an absolute stud, as during his high school career at Grayson High School in Georgia, he'd end up going for over 500 tackles during his career. He's one of the best linebackers in Georgia high school football history, and would decide to commit to Texas, and will now hope for early playing time next year in Austin. Coming in at number 19, we have our first offensive lineman on the list, and that is Mater Dei lineman Cody Green. He's considered the number 19 player, the number 3 offensive tackle, and the number 2 player in the state of California. At 6'5½", he had offers from Bama, Arizona State, Auburn, and pretty much every other school in the nation, but would decide to commit to the Washington Huskies. He becomes the highest rated recruit to sign with them since 2018, and should get a chance to play as a true freshman for them. We will now get a chance to talk about our third tight end of the day, and our last one, in Kendre Harrison. He comes out of Reidsville High School in North Carolina, and is considered the number 1 tight end and the 3rd best player in the state of North Carolina. He had offers from pretty much every school in the nation, but ended up deciding to commit to the Oregon Ducks. Harrison is a super athlete who is 6'7" and plays multiple sports, and he could be one of the most high-level players Oregon has signed in recent memory, and that is saying something. Terrence Ferguson and Kenyon Sadiq have become high-level players at the tight end spot for the Ducks, and I think Harrison will be the next one in line. Coming in at number 17, as 5-star Xavier Griffin has decided to sign with Bama. Coming out of Gainesville High School in Georgia, Griffin has been an absolute star, as in 2024, he had 43 tackles and 6 sacks, despite missing time with an injury. He's considered one of the best linebackers in the nation and would decide to commit to Alabama. Kalen DeBoer needs to continue to get big-time athletes on the defensive side of the ball, and honestly, he looks like the next great linebacker for them. Coming in at number 16, we have Emmanuel Iheanacho, who's the #1 offensive tackle in the country. This guy obviously comes from a great lineage of football players, as coming out of Georgetown Prep in Maryland, he had offers from Penn State, LSU, Bama, Auburn, and Oregon, and would decide to commit to the Ducks. Honestly, Oregon has been recruiting at an unreal level the last few years, and he's the next great offensive lineman for them, and his career will probably be a lot like Penei Sewell's was. At number 15, we have our first big signee for Texas Tech, and that is going to be edge rusher LaDainian Guyton. Obviously, they need to replace a couple of big-time players on defense, so coming out of Benedictine Military School, the same place as Luke Kromenhoek, Guyton is a huge get for them. He had offers from Bama, Auburn, Florida, Florida State, but he would decide to commit to the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And man, he's a huge deal. He was actually initially the #1 overall recruit in the class of 2027, but he would decide to go into the 2026 class and fell in love with Texas Tech this summer. His dream offer was apparently the Georgia Bulldogs, but he liked Texas Tech enough to commit there, and I'm sure he got a lot of money, liked the school, and will get early playing time, which is why he is such a huge get for them. Coming in at number 14, we have the #2 running back in the country in Xavier Crowell. He comes out of Jackson High School in Alabama, and my goodness, Alabama really needs this guy. After the rushing game has sort of fallen apart in 2025 for the Crimson Tide, they'll get a player who can make an impact instantly. This past season, he had 2,300 rushing yards and 30 touchdowns, and only had one game of under 100 yards. Kalen DeBoer thinks he'll get a chance to play as a true freshman, and Crowell might be the exact player that they have been missing over the last few years, someone who can truly make plays at the running back spot. Coming in just ahead of him is a 5-star offensive tackle by the name of Felix Ojo. He's 6'6" and 275 pounds, and coming out of Mansfield, Texas, he is now the second 5-star lineman to sign with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Texas Tech has truly taken their program to the next level, and he chose the Red Raiders over Utah, Texas, Michigan, and Ohio State. Ojo becomes one of the highest ranked players to ever go to Texas Tech and is someone they can build upon for the next few years as they try to make consecutive college football playoff runs. Ranked ahead of Ojo, we have one of the fastest rising players in the class of 2026, and that is Rodney Dunham. He comes out of Myers Park High School in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he's a top 10 recruit on 24/7 Sports, but in the composite, he is at number 12. He had a finalist of 10 schools and decided to commit to Notre Dame over Bama and Auburn. Dunham has been a big-time player for a while, but ended up flying up recruiting boards after having 39 tackles and 5 sacks as a junior. This past season, he then had 13 TFLs, 8 sacks, and 36 quarterback pressures, and combining those stats with his athleticism, many believe he'll be a big-time draft pick down the road and the next great Fighting Irish defensive lineman in a top 5 recruiting class they haven't had in quite some time. One of the most fascinating players to watch throughout the 2026 cycle was wide receiver Tristan Keys. He comes in at number 11, and coming out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, this guy is going to be a game-changing player for Tennessee. Except, originally, he was not supposed to go to the Volunteers. He was signed to go to LSU, and just like DeCorian Moore, a top-end wide receiver decided to leave Baton Rouge in favor of another school, this time being Tennessee. The Vols have produced a ton of wide receiver talent, and their offense is a ton of fun to play in, and that's a big reason why Keys would decide to sign with them. He really blew up last year after having 58 catches for 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns, and combining his stats with his measurables, Keys is going to be a fun player to watch and should get a chance to get on the field early in Rocky Top. The only wide receiver who was a bigger deal than Tristan Keys was Chris Henry Jr. He's obviously the son of Chris Henry, who played at West Virginia and was a great player for the Cincinnati Bengals, but Henry is an absolute stud. As a sophomore, Henry blew up into one of the top players in the country, as he ended up having nearly 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns, and was also a Max Preps freshman All-American. He's been really solid over the last couple of years and ended up at Mater Dei High School and decided to sign with Ohio State. I know there was some controversy about him actually signing with the Buckeyes today because of Brian Hartline, and Oregon tried to flip him, but it seems he's all in on going to Ohio State as of now. Coming in at number 9, we have our first quarterback on the list, and that is Dia Bell. He is also the son of a big-time athlete, as Raja Bell, the former NBA player for the Utah Jazz, is the father of Dia. He grew up as somewhat of a prodigy, and in middle school he started getting recruiting attention. Eventually, he became the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Florida, throwing for nearly 2,600 yards and 29 touchdowns, while also rushing for 561 yards and 5 touchdowns. Bell was handpicked by Steve Sarkisian to be his quarterback, and as a 5-star, he would decide to commit to the Longhorns. Unfortunately, Bell got injured this past season, so he will be coming into Austin a little bit banged up, but he's a high-ceiling quarterback who I think could be a star after Arch Manning leaves. Coming in at number 8, we have the number 1 running back in the country, and that is Savion Hyder. Compared to Omar Hampton, he came out of Louisa County High School in Virginia, and Hyder has been doing nothing but dominate the last couple of years. As a sophomore, he ran for 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns, and as a junior, he bumped that up to nearly 1,700 yards and 26 touchdowns. Hyder decided to commit to Michigan, where he will continue to follow in the footsteps of big-time Wolverines running backs, and he has a chance to play pretty early next year, being a backup to Jordan Marshall. At number 7, we have our second quarterback on the list, and that is Faison Brandon. Coming out of Grimsley High School in North Carolina, Brandon has been talked about for a couple of years now, and at one point was the number 1 overall recruit in the country. Played both football and basketball, and as a freshman, he threw for 8 touchdowns and really blew up as a sophomore, throwing for 2,800 yards and 35 touchdowns, with nearly 700 yards and 9 scores on the ground. This past season, he continued to dominate, and after committing to Tennessee a couple of summers ago, he will now arrive in Knoxville as the number 3 quarterback in the country, and honestly will have a chance to play next year as a true freshman, but I think Tennessee will end up getting a transfer, or they will give George McIntyre or Jake Merklinger a shot first. Coming in at number 6, we have Carter Meadows, a 5-star recruit from Gonzaga High School, located in Washington, D.C. This is the same school that Caleb Williams went to, and another huge recruit for the Michigan Wolverines. He would decide to sign with the Wolverines over offers from Ohio State, Penn State, Auburn, and Maryland, and he also played both football and basketball. As a junior, Meadows ended up having 33 tackles, 2 sacks, and 1 forced fumble, but he only played in 6 games. He also had a basketball offer from American University, and this guy is a world-class athlete who will get a chance to play pretty early on at Michigan, and at 6'6", he's crazy. Coming in at number 5, we have Zion Elie. He also comes from the East Coast, as this time he goes to St. Francis Academy, which is located in Baltimore, Maryland. Mike Locksley seems to have a way with these DMV big-time recruits, as Elie decided to sign with Maryland over offers from pretty much every school in the country. One 24/7 Sports Scout said, quote, "Metaphorically speaking, he's built in a lab to get after the quarterback. At 6'4", he has elite strength, and he would rack up double-digit sacks as a junior against a national schedule. During his junior season, in total he had 56 tackles, 10 sacks, 7 pass breakups, and 3 forced fumbles, and he is a ginormous get for Maryland, who desperately needs to turn things around, and if they don't, Mike Locksley is likely getting fired, and in that case, Zion probably transfers. At number 4, we have a superhuman on the offensive line, and that is Jackson Cantwell. The son of a former Olympian, Cantwell ended up coming out of the city of Nixa, Missouri, and I've been following him ever since he was a freshman because I'm a Mizzou fan. He was considered the number 1 overall recruit in the country for quite some time, and after having offers from literally every school in the country, Cantwell decided on the Miami Hurricanes. He is 6'8" and an absolute monster of a player, and someone like him is going to make a huge impact at Miami, and will replace Francis Mauigoa perfectly. At number 3, we have another quarterback, this time being Keyshawn Henderson. Ended up coming out of Legacy, the School of Sports Sciences High School, and that is located in Spring, Texas. Henderson has been putting up dominating numbers for quite some time now, as during his sophomore season, he passed for 2,000 yards and 28 touchdowns, and then as a junior, threw for just under 3,000 yards and 25 touchdowns. He ended up blowing up as a football recruit, and after Willie Fritz got in on him early, he would commit to the Houston Cougars. He was a 4-star at the time, but ended up blowing up into a 5-star, and is now considered the number 1 recruit in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. He's 3rd in the composite. I cannot remember a time Houston got a quarterback with this much hype, and honestly, if Connor Weigman decides to leave for the NFL, Henderson might take his spot, and maybe he'll take it regardless. At number 2, we have the number 1 athlete in the country, and that is Lamar Brown. He goes to the infamous University Lab High School in Baton Rouge, which has produced tons and tons of NFL players. He decided to commit to LSU over Texas A&M, Texas, Miami, and Alabama, and Lamar Brown has pretty much done everything. As a two-way player, he played on both offense and defense, and was named a Max Preps Junior All-American. He's also incredible at shot put and discus, and he projects as a multi-spot athlete who will be a first-round NFL draft pick, according to Gabe Brooks. Lane Kiffin needs big-time athletes to win at a high level, and Lamar Brown is a huge get for him. And finally, at number 1, we have quarterback Jared Curtis. He's been the number 1 quarterback in the class for quite some time, and he had quite the recruitment as well. Coming out of Nashville Christian School in Tennessee, Curtis would become runner-up for Mr. Football as a freshman, throwing for 2,300 yards and 27 touchdowns. As a sophomore, he once again threw for 2,500 yards and 25 touchdowns, and then as a junior, he got even better, throwing for 2,800 yards with 40 touchdowns and 3 picks. After originally committing to Georgia, he would open things up again, but would decide to reaffirm his commitment to Georgia, and then a couple of days ago, he would flip to Vanderbilt. This came out of nowhere, and according to Reddit and Twitter, it seems that Vanderbilt offered him early playing time, which is something he desperately wanted, which tells me 1, that Gunnar Stockton is probably coming back, and 2, he wouldn't have a chance to play that early at Georgia. This is humongous for Vanderbilt, who will lose Diego Pavia, and Clark Lea's desperately trying to keep the momentum going, and now he gets to stay in his home city and compete in the SEC right away. So yeah, today we talked about the top 25 recruits, who they are and where they are going, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to let me know your favorite recruit in the 2026 class and what topic I should cover next. Also, before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.